The situation in Gaza remains tense, with President Donald Trump proposing a plan to clean out Gaza. Trump has suggested that Jordan and Egypt could take in the population either temporarily or long term. This comes as thousands of Palestinians are waiting to return to northern Gaza Strip after being displaced. As many as 650,000 people are expected to return under the ceasefire. Trump claims his move will allow for peace and rebuilding in that region. He added that he has already spoken to King Abdullah of Jordan and plans to talk to Egypt's President al-Sisi.
To take people, I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General al-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's it's over the centuries that's many conflicts that site, and I don't know. It's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished.
These are the images of displaced Palestinians scrambling for aid as food and water was distributed. While the break-in fighting has filled Gaza residents with optimism, the future of the territory remains uncertain. Tens of thousands of displaced people are already waiting near the Netzarim corridor to return as the crowds stretched hundreds of meters in 3 directions. Displaced Palestinians have rejected calls by U.S. President Donald Trump for Egypt and Jordan to take in the Palestinians from Gaza.
The call by the U.S. president is completely rejected, completely. If he thinks he will forcibly displace the Palestinian people, then this is impossible. The Palestinian people firmly believe that this land is theirs, this soil is their soil. No matter how much Israel tries to destroy, break, and to show people that it had won, in reality it did not win. It destroyed and ruined things and showed the people that it is a failed state.
Israel has demanded the release of civilian female hostage Arbel Yehud, failing which it says it will block the reopening of the north. Mr. Heino Klink is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia. Mr. Klink is now joining us live on this broadcast. Thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to the program. What makes President Donald Trump think that this grand idea of cleaning out Gaza will work? Gazans have said it will not work. Jordan and Egypt are not likely to accept Gazans into their country.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think we can all agree with President Trump that something has to change. Something has to happen, and there needs to be a regional approach. Even prior to the horrific terrorist attacks of October 7th, Gaza was not thriving. It depended on foreign aid in order for basic sustenance to reach its people. Now you've got a situation after more than a year of war where you have a large percentage of the population completely displaced and more than half the buildings in the entire Gaza Strip either damaged or destroyed. So there has to be some sort of new thinking as to how to rebuild Gaza and perhaps more importantly, ensure that Hamas is no longer in power and can no longer serve as a safe haven to plan heinous attacks against Israel.
So, Mr. Klink, do you support Donald Trump's idea?
Well, I think it's early stages yet, quite candidly. I think he shared a general opinion that something has to change and that regional partners of the United States, countries particularly that have diplomatic relations with Israel, need to be part of that plan. I understand the hesitancy and reluctance of Jordan and Egypt to accept additional Palestinian refugees. They are worried about their own internal security issues because if you recall, in the early 1970s, the Jordanians had to, in essence, kick the PLO out of Jordan because of the malign activities it was involved in. And of course, President al-Sisi is concerned about elements of Hamas establishing itself in the Sinai Peninsula. So that reluctance is understandable. But again, I think President Trump's overarching point is we have to do something different. There has to be a new approach so that we are not just throwing more money at Gaza in order to rebuild it so that for the next generation, we have the exact same problems that we've had for the last generation.
Mr. Klink, now that we're talking about a new approach, make me understand something, because this is the latest development that we are getting in our newsroom at this hour. And President Donald Trump has approved the supply of 2,000-pound Mk-84 bombs to Israel. We are talking as a world to end this war, but if the United States continues to supply weapons to Israel, what does that say? What is happening?
Well, I think you're highlighting one particular headline. Let's remember that the United States also provides military assistance in large numbers to Egypt in particular, as well as to Jordan. Let's also remember that one of the mainstays of President Trump's foreign defense policy is peace through strength. So you have to be able to deter your adversaries and your enemies. And frankly, October 7th, in my opinion, served as an example of Israel not deterring Hamas from these attacks. Moreover, despite Israel's successes on the battlefields against Hamas and Hezbollah, the Houthis are still launching ballistic missile attacks, drone attacks against Israel, and the Houthis have not been eliminated as a threat against Israel and the Israeli people. So this bomb allotment that has been approved, this was already in the pipeline before, had already been approved before. It was the Biden administration that was holding it in abeyance in order to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu.
All right, Mr. Klink, we'll have to end it there. I've been talking to Heino Klink, is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia. Mr. Klink, as always, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.